One of the biggest struggles that Muslims have during Ramadan is their weight, and we all know that we have all gained some kind of weight by the end of Ramadan ended, and we all instantly regretted every meal that we had in Ramadan during iftar. So if you're somebody who actually wants to look how to be very healthy without actually losing your acts of worship and without losing your deen, but also enjoying your food and meals at every iftar, you want to watch this video till the end, because today I'll be sharing with you all 10 tips on how to really stay fit and healthy during Ramadan. So yeah, let's get started. So the first tip that I'm going to be sharing with you all is very simple, but is very something that I think people forget the most during Ramadan, and that is to drink 2 liters of water on a daily basis. Now, fitting 2 liters of water can be really hard, especially if your time limit is between iftar to suhoor. It can be it's very narrow, I would say. So you want to make sure that after you have eaten your iftar or broken your fast, I would say probably half an hour later, I would definitely recommend for you to really start drinking a little bit of water every single I would say every half an hour or something. In that way you're actually intaking enough water. Or you can alternatively have some kind of fruits that are very water intake or highly water they have a lot of water, for example cucumbers or watermelon. In that way you're actually consuming enough water for you to keep yourself hydrated for the whole entire day. Number 2 is making sure that you're eating more complex carbs rather than refined and white carbs. So you want to make sure that you're avoiding as many white things as possible, for example rice, white sugar, white flour, all those kind of things. In that way you're actually replacing yourself with more complex carbs, for example oats or brown rice or brown bread or brown flour, whatever that might be. In that way you're actually consuming complex carbs, which means they're going to take more time for actually get digested in your stomach or your belly. In that way you're not going to be feeling hungry quickly, because I've seen that this myself. For example, whenever I've eaten a white rice as opposed to brown rice, for example, I would get much quickly hungrier when I actually consumed white rice. When it came to brown rice, it actually digested more slowly, which means that I was getting less hungry, and that means I was not reaching out for more snacks or anything like that. So you want to make sure that you're actually replacing your white carbs or white, refined and processed carbs or anything like that into more complex carbs that might take you time to actually digest it in your belly. Tip number 3 is making sure that you're quitting sugar completely and instead have more natural sugars, for example, honey, dried fruits, almonds, and all those kind of and nuts and all those kind of things. So you want to make sure that you're avoiding eating biscuits, cakes, ice creams, and all those kind of things that are quite delicious, but they're actually going to make you put on weight much more. Especially I've been that kind of a person in the past few years where every time I had an iftar, I would have to have something which was very cold and sweet. So ice creams was basically the perfect thing to eat for me in those times. But of course now I'm going to be trying to change those things, because I don't want to put on weight, or I don't want to gain weight during Ramadan, especially when exercise has been lessened in comparison to the normal days. So you want to make sure they're actually completely banning white sugar and eating all those kind of processed foods as much as possible, and instead replacing those with any kind of things which are natural and fresh and organic, for example honey, dried fruits, almonds, and nuts, and all those kind of things. So you want to actually replace those things really well right now. Tip number 4 goes really well with tip number 3, and that is to make sure that you're staying away from processed food as much as you can. I'm not saying to completely ban those things, because I know myself I cannot do that during Ramadan. So you want to make sure that 80% of your time you're actually eating clean, and 20% you can actually allow some kind of processed foods inside your belly or body. But that's okay, because you want to make sure that staying away from processed foods as many days as you can, and then whenever you feel like it, when you have the big urge to actually have a burger, for example, or a pizza or a pakora or a samosa, whatever that might be, you want to make sure they're actually having in those times and not just a daily thing, if you know what I mean. You want to also make sure they're having healthy alternatives to any kind of processed foods. For example, instead of having, let's say, a pizza, you can have a kebab with a little bit of oil, and that is non-greasy, not too much, and it's not fatty or anything like that. So in that way, you're actually taking in a lot more protein as opposed to just having a bread with some tomato sauce and mozzarella, basically. So you want to make sure that you're actually replacing your processed foods into more healthier choices and healthier alternatives. And you can find many recipes like this online, where you can actually find healthy recipes for any kind of favorite foods that you might have that are actually quite unhealthy. So yeah, make sure that you're staying away from processed foods and replacing those with healthy choices. Tip number 5 is making sure that you're eating moderately and slowly. So I have been someone who actually used to eat quite fast and used to think that I didn't have enough food, so I would pick up more food and start eating more, especially after iftar, because I would think that I fasted for so long, so I deserve to have a big meal. But this is actually a very big mistake, because we have seen that many times that we actually end up eating more than often than we actually need to. So you want to make sure that you're actually eating moderately and slowly as possible, and this is best done, of course, especially when you're not watching the TV or watching the news or using your phone, because then you're fully concentrated on the food, and in that way you're digesting the food better and you know exactly what's going inside your body. But of course, this is something that I'm struggling with myself, but hopefully this Ramadan, inshallah, I'm going to try to actually make sure that I'm not watching the TV as much whenever I'm eating my iftar, because in those times that's when I start eating way more than I actually should, and that of course makes me put on weight and I become unfit. So you want to make sure that you're eating moderately and slowly as much as possible, especially during iftar. And of course suhoor, you can actually up your game a little bit, but in terms of iftar, you want to make sure you're not eating too much and not too quickly. Tip number 6 is making sure that you're never missing suhoor. If you think that missing suhoor is going to make you lose weight more and it's going to make you look more fit, more skinny, or whatever that might be, you're actually completely wrong, because suhoor of course is a sunnah, but you want to make sure that you're not skipping any meals in Ramadan, especially if you go to school, if you're a high school student or a college or a university student, or you even have a 9 to 5 job. No matter what kind of job you might be having right now, you want to make sure that you're actually never skipping your suhoor, because that's very essential to your body and your energy. And guess what, if you don't have suhoor, you're going to be falling sick really easily during Ramadan, and you don't want to be falling sick during Ramadan and skipping any kind of fast, especially if you're a woman yourself. So you want to make sure that you are not skipping any suhoor at all, and having as much as food as you want during suhoor, but not too much of course, and keep it moderate and slowly, and eat slowly of course, and yeah, never skip suhoor. Tip number 7 is making sure that you're having a good night's sleep. This is very essential to your health, because if you don't sleep enough, that means that you won't be able to do the daily task really easily, especially when you're empty, when you're going to be having an empty stomach. That's going to be even harder for you to really concentrate on your work, on your schoolwork, on your college or university work as well. So you want to make sure that you're having at least 7 to 8 hours every single day, and you're somehow managing this according to your own schedule, and maybe having a nap time of 2 hours, and then you have 4 hours in the night, or even 6 hours in the night or something like that. So you want to make sure that you are actually sleeping as many hours as you can, and whatever you can do and fit, and making sure you're taking naps if you need to, especially during lunchtime, or even like during after you come back from your work or school. So you want to make sure that you're fitting in some kind of rest time in your day, so that you can recharge yourself and recharge your batteries, especially because you know that your energy levels are going down. So you want to make sure that you're sleeping enough hours. Now I'm going to be moving on more on the physical activity side of how to stay fit and healthy during Ramadan. So the first one is making sure that you're actually socializing as much as possible, so that you can actually meet and also spend time with the people that you actually love, deeply care about and trust as well. For example, your friends and family. Also attend the local mosque if you can, to attend any kind of sermon or khutbahs or anything like that. And also making sure that you're attending any kind of online virtual iftar meetings, especially if your relatives, for example, live very far away from you and you cannot really travel towards them, or they cannot travel towards you. So you want to make sure they're actually socializing as much as possible, and taking out your time for at least 30 minutes every single day to actually socialize and spend as much time as possible with your family, friends and relatives, and also attending local mosque too. Tip number 9, or the second tip for physical activity, is making sure that you're exercising just before iftar for about 30 minutes or 1 hour, whatever your body can actually handle. You can actually exercise before actually breaking your iftar. So in that way, as soon as you have finished your exercise, you can actually eat. In that way, you're not actually putting on weight. At the same time, you're keeping yourself in check and healthy and fit by exercising and doing any kind of activity. But of course, you don't want to go too vigorous in this, because you already have low energy levels, and you don't want to be falling sick or anything like that just before breaking your iftar, or falling sick even before 10 minutes before iftar or anything like that. So you want to make sure that you're doing exercise, yes, but not too vigorous, too much that is going to consume too much of your energy and you might actually fall sick. So you want to make sure that you're actually exercising just before iftar, so that in that way you can have food straight away after you finish your exercise. Tip number 10, and the last tip, is to make sure that if you cannot exercise, or if you don't have any gym equipment, for example, at home, or the gyms are not open in your country, you want to make sure that you're actually doing any other kind of exercise routine as well. For example, walking. Walking can be a really good way for you to really move yourself, but you're also not wasting too much of your energy at the same time. So you want to make sure that you're giving yourself at least 10, 15, 30 minutes every single day to actually walk around your neighborhood, or walking around the house, or even walking around the stairs instead of taking the elevator or escalator or anything like that, or the lift. You want to make sure that you're actually walking as much as possible, so that in that way you're keeping yourself in check, especially if you're a busy person and you are a mother, for example, or you have a 9 to 5 job to handle and all those kind of things. So you want to make sure that you're actually giving yourself at least 10, 15 to 30 minutes every single day to walk, if you cannot exercise at home. This brings me to the end of today's video. I hope you really enjoyed and found these tips really helpful on how to stay fit and healthy during Ramadan. If you have any other tips yourself, then please comment down below. I would definitely check it out. But if you found this video helpful, then please also do like, share, and subscribe to others who might be fasting this Ramadan as well, and also in the next Ramadan. You never know, inshallah. But other than that, if you're interested in this kind of content, then I do make these kind of videos on a weekly basis. So if you want to stay tuned for those, then please do subscribe and click the bell icon next to the subscribe button so that you will be the first to be notified. But other than that, I will see you in my next week's video.